Saludos, mi gente. I am Erika Hernandez, and this is the Polymath Latina podcast. Join me every week in real conversations with women from all walks of life who are making a true impact in their communities. We will dive into different topics that range from culture to religion, health, politics, and business. Whether it's a one-on-one conversation with my guest or a table discussion open for debate, one thing is for sure, no topic is off the table. Over the past 2 years, I have gained over 18 pounds, and accepting my body has become a struggle for me. So I'm excited to be talking to the hype coach, master of social work, therapist, and curvy girl influencer, Tejal Parekh. Tejal is a diosa who's impacting the world and breaking barriers when it comes to body positivity. Welcome, Tejal.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you. And for the record, just so everybody knows, I have already like titled her the hype queen. Forget about hype coach. She's like the hype queen.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you so much for being here. I know we were talking a little bit before we started getting rolling, and I want to touch on that a little bit, but you are Asian.
Yes.
Okay? You speak phenomenal Spanish.
Thank you.
Okay? And I was curious to know where and how you learned how to speak the language. So before we jump into why you're really here, girl, right? Can you share a little bit about how you learned the language, just in case some of your followers and people are still trying to figure out, like, what's up with this diosa thing, you know, like, where is that coming from?
Agreed. Thank you so much once again. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for
you.
this opportunity. Thank you
Yes,
as well.
yes.
So yes, in regards to my background and where I learned the language. So since I was a little girl, as you mentioned, I am Asian, Jewish American, African American, and growing up in a Latina culture throughout in Jersey City. Born in New York, raised there in Jersey City, and being able to be surrounded by the community, as I mentioned before. And my other mom, who's Ecuadorian, who raised me growing up, which was my vecina. My other father as well, who is Puerto Rican, who also raised me as well growing up. Okay. And then on top of that, the other cultures that I was surrounded with growing up as well in my previous relationship as well, the Central American community. So with that, I was able to learn the language growing up, and it's just in me. So
and I love it. I love it. I was telling you, I have a friend who is half Irish,
yes,
half Italian, and she speaks better Cuban. I say Cuban Spanish because we have our own dialect and our own, like, you know, little sazon that we put into our words and stuff. And it's just amazing to know, like, the story. And it's so funny because in high school, I'm sorry, Heather, for putting this out there to the world, but in high school, we decided to baptize her one day during changing of classes.
Okay.
And we took her to the bathroom, and we stuck her head in a toilet, and we baptized her Latina. Because so, and since then, she has been one of us for sure, and you are definitely one of us for sure.
Thank you so much.
So, why you're really here, and like I shared during the introduction, you know, I've gained a few pounds, and weight has always been a self-confident thing for me, right? When I was little, I grew up as the little chubby girl, because specifically in the Latino community, it's like, they're always feeding you, right? Yes. And if you don't eat, then you're being disrespectful, right? But then when you gain too much weight, then that's a problem too. Then you need to stop eating, right? So I was in awe, you know, and I'm still in awe. Like when I see your content and I see that you're so vibrant and you're so comfortable in your own skin and your own body, and I was like, I need to have her on because I need that. Like, you know, there's one thing that you've gained weight and you are committed and determined and motivated to do something about it, right? And then there are people and moments like myself at this particular time where I am in my life where I know I'm not happy with how I look, but I'm not motivated to do anything about it either. Like I wake up every Monday and I'm saying, today's the day. I'm gonna walk a mile, I'm gonna eat right, I'm gonna do, but by 10, it's like, breakfast? What's breakfast? Which is the most important meal, right? And I'm like, walking? Nah, I'm too tired. I'm not doing that today. So I needed to have you on to kind of like share some of that knowledge, share where this come from, your vibrance, your energy, your hypeness, because I love it. So we are going to begin from the beginning, the journey of transformation, okay? Do you mind sharing your story, and how did you get to the point where you are now that you can look at yourself in the mirror, say, I love you, mean it, be on Instagram in a bikini and have absolutely no freaking problem with it? Like, what was that journey? Has it always been that way?
Thank you for this incredible question. And it hasn't been always this way. And for me, growing up, so since the age of 25, I had previously, prior to that, as I mentioned right before we went on live, I had mentioned to you about being in a toxic relationship since I was 14. When growing up, I grew up in a domestic violence home, and being around that and not being told that I love you, not having that affection, not having that empowerment, not having those role models of those individuals, specifically my mom and my father, biological, not having that at that time didn't show me very much. But what it did and what it instilled in me over time was to learn and teach myself. And as many of us, we have to break those chains, right? Those cycles of like where we're carrying all these boulders on our shoulders and having to learn and teach ourselves how to love who we are and love ourselves. And it's a journey. And for me, like, we're living in that, going into a relationship at a young age, having no clue that I was about to walk into a toxic relationship until later on, and having to leave that relationship after a few times because it was abusive. And I am a survivor and guerrera, a warrior of domestic violence. And I use the word warrior because we are so used to the word of surviving instead of victim, and putting us in that box instead of saying, no, like, this person is a survivor. They've overcome. They're overcoming. They're working through it. They've healed, or they're healing. And for me, that's how I look at it. And so in regards to me being able to be this person who I am now, like Tejal, it's been a long journey. And I'm 30 now. And this has been the last 5 years, having to build myself up again, having to learn who I am. And growing up, I was also a curvy plus size girl. And we already know in the 90s and the 2000s, there was no line of any plus size clothing for girls.
It wasn't even cool.
Okay?
It wasn't even cool. It wasn't even cool. Having a butt wasn't cool.
Hello. Okay? Exactly.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, having to go to, like, let's say, you know, our department stores at the time that were bigger, since like now we have different stores and so forth. But at that time, going into the boys section, having to go in there. And my other dad that I mentioned, my dad John, who's my Puerto Rican father, he, like, we would have to go and we would like shop. And like we would go in and he was like, yeah, we can't go into this section. You're too heavy. We have to go into the boys section. And unfortunately, as a young girl, right, like 9, 10 years old, nobody wants to have that feeling and not having being able to be with like certain colors and being that vibrant self, right? And so with that, I had to really build upon myself throughout my journey, and like since I was a young girl. And then it's been a beautiful journey. And it's also been ugly because people want to always romanticize the idea of self-love. But people don't realize that it is the nights that you're crying and you're looking up at the moon and you're like, you're asking God, like, why is this happening at this moment in time? But it's what is it teaching you? And I had to turn my whole journey around and say to myself, I'm not a victim, you know, and I had to break the cycle and the chain where my mom was not able to, right? And I had to make the decision. And that's even heavier for many of us out here who are having to change things around for our lives, that people in our past generations, right?
It's like nobody was brave enough to do the work before me. Like, why does it have to be me, right? Like,
exactly. And so you're like, man, I have to do this, and now I have to be here and just like, wow, just do this work. And it's heavy, but I was able to do it and able to pretty much work through it. And the last 5 years has been a blessing to me because I've been able to work and become who I am now. And through that journey, I was like, no, I have to share this. I have to share what it means to really love yourself, because throughout my journey, I had nobody that I could relate to at my age. 20s, there was nobody around or like nor agencies or so forth that I could go to and say, hey, I'm a professional. I'm working, right now in foster care. I'm helping all these families, but I'm also going through personal things in my life.
Right.
And I had nobody who could relate to me, right? And with that, I was going through so much abuse, verbal, physical, and so forth. And I made it through to finally make the decision that I had to walk away.
So what was that final decision for you? Like, what was the, like, I am done?
For me, it had to take a couple times because it's like you say to yourself, like, no, I love this person. I know they're going to change. Let me just say, we want that, but you have to understand that it's not up to you to stay there and wait for that change, because we can wait until we turn blue and it's not going to happen,
right.
In that moment in time.
Right.
So you have to love yourself enough to move ahead. And I said to myself, I can either become the same generation where my mom came from, or in my past generation, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, who also went through the same thing on our Jewish side and black side, or I can make the decision of saying, you know what, it's time to cut this, and I have to move ahead. And I had to, because I said I love myself more than anything in this world. Right. And I have to come first, because if I don't, then one day I may not wake up. And I didn't want that.
I hear you. Yeah. I got it. And I know that you touched a little bit on this, but how did your family speak to you about beauty and self-love as a child?
Excellent question. Thank you for that. Because the thing is that my mom, growing up, she already was dealing with her own body. And she was also she had a lot of negative self-image and body image about herself. And so how that was projected on me was always like, oh, well, what are you wearing? And why are you wearing this? And, oh, you're getting a little heavy. You're looking like this. And, for my father, it wasn't much of that, because in the Indian culture, we're used to, women being somewhat voluptuous, especially with like saris and clothing that we wear. But to an extent, Bollywood doesn't also present that in a way. So my father, I wasn't getting it too much from him.
Yeah, I don't see that in the Bollywood, even now.
Yes.
Okay.
Agreed. But I had it more from my mom, that side. And so growing up, I wasn't taught what self-love was, because my mom didn't love herself enough to make the decisions that she needs to really, protect herself and myself at that time. So my mom never accentuated or gave that off to me. So I wasn't taught what the image of beauty would look like. My other mom, who I mentioned before, that's Ecuadorian, her daughter, who's my sister, I learned somewhat of beauty image and body image to an extent, because she was the one who was like bathing me. She was the one who was taking care of me, getting clothes and so forth. And when my mom couldn't at that time, because my mom was too much in a depressed state. And so with that, I was able to still see what beauty was, but not completely. So again, I had to really teach myself throughout my 20s until now what beauty is to me.
Right. And what is that?
Beauty to me is just showing up as myself every single day. Whether I have acne, whether I have all these pounds, whether I look a little heavier on camera, it is what it is.
Well, that's a fact. That we're going to look heavier on camera? Absolutely.
And that's okay, because I'm all right with that. I love myself enough, because I fought too hard to be Tejal today. I fought too hard to be who I am now, to make this person and this beautiful soul that I am brightness. My name Tejal means brightness in the Gujarati language, and that's who I am. So I'm like, no, I have to be bright. This is who I am, and I want to. Yeah. Why dim myself? And so that's what it is for me every day, showing up as myself authentically, loving my body, even in the moments that I don't. There'll be moments that I'm like, oh man, look at all this acne. But I'm like, you know what? It's okay. Have that moment. I honor that. I honor those feelings. And I'm like, okay, it's all right. It's going to pass. And it does. And then guess what? I wake up the next day and I'm like, all right, let's go. We got to go. Time to empower the world and empower myself. Because everything that I do through my platform is also a reflection and comes back to me. Right. Because it's something so important.
Love it. I love it. And then there's always makeup and concealer, right?
Yes. De acuerdo, yes.
And being that you're, I pretty much know you through Instagram. Yes. Like that, we're Instagram friends, guys. Yes. And I see the vibrance, I see the color, I see the joy. And all this positivity that you kind of share and is translated through your images and everything that you do. And I want to ask you, do you feel the body consciousness movement is in a moving in a positive direction in terms of how women view themselves, or do you feel like it's not really changing?
That's a great question.
And the reason why I ask this is because there's a lot of people, that are all about the body positivity.
Yep.
And the body positivity movement, but it's very hard to kind of like dictate. Is it for the likes and the follows, or is it really genuine? So how do you see this movement going, especially that it's just picking up more and more momentum as time goes by?
I see it overall is that there are a lot of, throughout the pandemic, I saw the numbers growing up with like hashtags, and I was like, so interesting, guys. Now you guys are jumping on the bandwagon of the hashtag, plus size fashion or curvy or, body positivity or body posi. And I'm like, guys, where were you guys this whole time? Where were you guys? And I see that there are people who are doing it authentically like myself. And there's other people who, you question some things because then they're promoting certain products that are not body positive, that it's, doing the opposite instead of like encouraging the community to love themselves. So it's a mixture. And then I also see of a lot of it sometimes getting whitewashed to an extent as well because of the fact that, they want to romanticize what body positivity is, but can you really dig deep where it's also affecting cultures and communities such as us, women of color, who are also going through different things and are exploring our bodies and trying to tell the community, hey, accept us who we are, but we need more diversity and inclusivity when it comes to clothing, when it comes to walking into the store and seeing a mannequin that looks like us, right? Looking, or like, let's say, whether it's color, whether it's skin, etc., or clothing, accessibility. That's what we are looking for. So I see that it's 50-50, but I see a lot of people jumping on because they're like, oh yeah, it's beautiful, but it's like, no, do you know what it is to wake up every day and you have to remind yourself that it's okay to be you.
Right.
You don't have to be the rest of these people out here who want to portray something different, especially behind, Instagram and social
behind
media.
a screen. I get it. Can you share your view on how the media portrays body image and body ideals? And I ask this because, it's funny that you said about fashion, because the other day I went into Old Navy, a store that I haven't been to in a really long time. And the first thing I walked into was a plus size mannequin, which was cool. So what are your thoughts as far as, body ideals and images when it comes to the media portraying? And I know that you touched a little bit already about that.
For sure. I find that at this point, there is some type of improvement, but there's so much more work to do. Because in New York Fashion Week, for example, we saw some plus lines and some plus size models, but those models are, for example, bigger models who have bigger numbers and platforms. What about the other influencer or other models who are still growing their platforms, giving them somewhat type of opportunity?
You're so right. I didn't think about that. Okay.
We can name a couple. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many out there that were there, but what about the rest of us that are out here, and especially those who aren't signed, like myself, the work that I do, you know what I mean? Giving opportunities for those who are servant leaders and also modeling and influencing in that way, in a positive way. That's important. And aside from that, we still have all these bigger brands that are still not inclusive.
Right.
Not inclusive at all. And I saw one runway that I was watching, forgot it was either Revolve or another one, and I was just like seeing all these models that are just so thin, and I think about them, and I pray for them because I'm just like, I hope that they love themselves enough as well, because again, there's not enough inclusivity on that runway. And you think about all these women who are pressured as well into these careers. They're happy with their careers, they've worked for them, but they're pressured to be these bodies
to have a certain image.
Correct. And maybe they don't really love, but they have to do that. So now these days you see like brands like Old Navy, for example, Abercrombie with Denise and her best friend who have been working with their, platform. That's amazing. But there's still so much work to do because there's so many other brands who don't carry sizes for us, I can tell you how many times I go I live in Union City, New Jersey, and I go to, let's say, for example, like tons of stores on, let's say, Bergen Line Avenue, right? And let's say I go to like Rainbow or 10 Spot. I can't tell you how many times I see some of these stores that don't have enough inclusivity when it comes to the plus size section.
Right, the section is a lot smaller.
Or
it's tiny.
It's
The clothes are farty looking.
correct. Or they're just like, you're just like,
We
no.
can say it, farty looking.
Yes, agreed. Or they're just not it. And you see the other section. So what are you telling the customer, right? Majority, right, of the person who's coming in? Oh, well, you're not welcome here in regards to your size because this is all we're going to give you, right?
Right.
Instead of the opposite of welcome, hello, how are you? You are welcomed here. And that's what you noticed when you walked into Old Navy, right? So that's the difference. So there are some brands that are moving towards it, but there are so many other brands that still need to work towards what they need to show up. Because we're here. We have the money. If you guys don't want the money, that's fine. We'll give our money to who we want.
So then what do you say to those brands that say that they don't produce plus size clothing because it's too expensive to make?
Listen. Look, that is an excuse because of the money that you have already used for, let's say, your marketing teams, let's say for your influencers or so forth. You can use that money to allocate. It's all about budgeting, mi gente, budgeting. Use that money. There's a way. There's a way to have more funding to provide to this community. If you only knew how many content creators like ourselves that are out here that are willing to work with brands to be able to amplify that, there would be so much change. So time to make the change. Stop sleeping on us because we're not sleeping on you guys. We're watching very closely, and that's what it's about. So making the funding, there has to be a way. There's no excuse for that.
But if they were to say, okay, we'll make the clothes, but it's going to cost $3 more if you are over a size 14. Because that's what I feel.
Yeah.
Because I see it now. Like sometimes I go onto certain websites, and if you are X size, it costs this much. But the minute you start going to like the 2X and up, it's like $10 more.
Yeah.
So what do we say to that?
We say that stop charging us more money for our size and work with us just as you work with the other sizes. Why are they not getting charged more money for extra pieces of clothing that you need or the less clothing that you put on certain items?
And anyways, the money that they're saving on the less pieces of clothing, they could just add to that.
Okay. That's it.
So my next question is, you are effing fucking badass. I'm gonna say it. She's a fucking badass. I said it. Censor me, YouTube. And I commend you for your attitude. Like I always say, like every time I talk to you, I'm like, damn, this girl, her attitude and her vibrance and whatever. But the truth is, there's trolls. And there are a lot of digital barriers, right? And social media barriers that you have to kind of overcome. How do you overcome and deal with like the trolls, like, because I've seen the comments, not specifically on your page, but they happen, right? Especially on TikTok where if you get a troll that leaves a negative comment, we have other badass women who are all about the body positivity, like call them out. They'll like answer their question and make a video out of it, right? But how do you deal with it?
So thank you for that question. For me, I see the comments, and sometimes you may not see it right away, but sometimes immediately, like when I drop a post, I have undergone that when it comes to, individuals saying, oh, you're too fat. Oh, well, lose some weight. Or, they'll make very insensitive comments to me. And I look at them, and I have enough confidence now that I'm like, okay. Like, okay, that means si tú crees. If you believe that, keep it moving, my friend. Like, that's it. And I just look at it and I just laugh and I'm like, keep it moving. Because there's no time to put an energy into that. That is all negativity, right? And it's about keeping that higher self. It's about keeping that energy high. We're going to have days that we have low energy. Yeah, that's fine. But it's important that not to every single thing, we cannot carry it. You can't. Because if we carry everything that everybody thought today, when I walked down like the street about how I looked and my hair and my acne or whatever, I could be here and be like, oh my God. No, for what? Why am I gonna do that? There's no time to put in that energy because that's what people want. They want to see sometimes you to be upset. Not everybody, but those people specifically that may attack your account, right? Or maybe putting those comments. That's what they want, but you can't let people get to you that way. You gotta just stay motivated and remember your purpose. Remember why you're here. That's what I do. I just remember why I'm here, and that's it. And I keep it moving. And then, as I mentioned to you before, in regards to being canceled recently, and this earlier this year, unfortunately, it hurt. That hurt, and it was just like, because I know how a great person that I am and what I do for the community, online and offline in my career. And so I'm just like, wow. But I had to take a step back and remind myself that I am a effing badass, and that it's okay, because if people feel like that, it's all right.
Right.
I'm still here.
Right.
And nobody can cancel me at the end of the day, because I am somebody who is here to serve this community.
Right.
And everything that I do.
And it's like I told you, I feel like your truth and your honesty and your authenticity kind of like shows off. So no matter how much somebody would try to cancel you, there's going to be people like myself that'll step in and be like, no, that's not true. That's not how I see it, right?
Yeah.
So how can we follow in your footsteps and be that change and start promoting body positivity?
Just show up every day and love yourself. And how does that look when it comes to loving yourself? It's just show up and look at yourself in the mirror. Have tons of affirmations. Maybe affirmations doesn't work for you. Put some on music. Like, listen, you can look for my playlist, the Hype Coach playlist on Spotify, okay? Just put it on and just, go in the mirror and just, just look at yourself and remind yourself of how incredible you are. That's the point. You have to be your best friend. I am my own best friend. I can go out. Listen, I'm single. I've been single the last few years, and I've made that purpose for myself until I manifest that person. But listen, I am strong enough to be at a table eating by myself. Mm-hmm. That's part of being body positive too, right? Sitting in an area where people could also look at you and your body and say, oh my God, esta. You know what I mean?
¿Pa dónde va?
Exacto. But aquí estamos. We're right here. And, sitting at the table and just being content. You have to be content with yourself. And how do you do that? Like I mentioned, showing up every day, putting those affirmations up, journaling, loving yourself, maybe going to therapy. That's okay. Therapists go to therapy too. Everybody. I encourage everybody to do it, or holistic therapy, however that looks like. Right. Meditation, self-love challenges. Those are my favorite things. There's a ton on Pinterest. You know what I mean? Finding those, writing in your journal every single day. Challenge yourself. What do you not love about your body, and how can you continue to work through it? What do you not love about your aura, your inner self? Because we think sometimes it's only this. It's also here. What's in your heart? What do you feel? You got to dive in there, because what you dive in and you bring out will then exude outside, and you'll just light up.
And I'm glad that you touched on that, because
yes.
I'm going to put myself in this situation, sure. Right? So I'm a type of person that, when the year started, I went out and I brought this amazing journal that I was supposed to be doing work every day on. And I went out of my way and I started taping, affirmations all over the wall and whatnot. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get in this journey. It is now almost the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And I cannot find the motivation to do it. So how do you stay motivated to make sure that you are speaking positivity to yourself, to make sure that you're making that time for yourself? Like, how do you stay motivated? Because I know that right now I'm going through my own thing right now and my own journey. But I also know that people that are not on that journey right now where I am and are where you are, you can't wake up every single day and be like,
yeah, you're right.
So what keeps you motivated on those days that you wake up and you're like, not today?
I cry.
Okay.
I let it out. You know what I mean? That's how my way of doing things sometimes. Sometimes I got to do a good cry. Release whatever's going on. Crying is not bad. It's good. You know what I mean? Because it releases what you had, that tension. And however else I do it too is I pray. I pray a lot. I'm always praying, and I'm, meditating, and I'm asking God, what is next? Help me. Give me that strength. And that's been it for the whole journey of my self-love journey and body positivity journey. It's always talking to God, okay, dímelo, Dios. Like, let's talk about this, having that one-on-one conversation. Aside from that, it's been moments that I'm really down. I just like talk to my circle. I talk to my support team.
Right.
And they're like, Tejal, do you remember like last week you were just there doing this? You were at this seminar talking, and I'm like, oh, you're right. I forgot,
You're like, damn, I got to start practicing what I just preached last week.
Yes, because it happens. We're human.
Yes.
We're human beings, and it's okay. Mm-hmm. And I do my best not to beat myself up anymore. Because in the past, I used to do it a lot. And I had to learn and teach myself, I am my own best friend. I have to be kind to my mind, kind to my heart, and just make sure that like every single day, I'll take my walks. You know what I mean? After work or before work. I'll meditate. I take myself out on tons of dates, whether it's budget friendly or whether I splurge, and I do different things. My favorite thing to do, get my tripod, whether it's for the platform or not, get my tripod, and I just do a whole photo shoot, like of myself.
I'm imagining that.
I promise you. I get in and I'm like, okay, vamos. And I just put like some great music and I'm like, hey, and I just do it. And I show up or I get myself flowers. Like every 2 weeks, I got my bouquet of flowers. Estamos bien, okay? Ahí en la cocina, we're good. Looking at them, and I just pour into Tejal because as a therapist and a college counselor and a hype coach and everything that I do, I pour so much out to the world. I have to pour back into me. We're just speaking about that, right?
I've been hearing about that a lot.
Yes.
I've been getting told that a lot.
Yes, but that's my way. And I get up and I remind myself about my purpose. I have a vision board in my kitchen, and it's still from like 2021 and like part of it and part of 2020. And I look at it and I remind myself of how many things I've achieved and not yet. And that's okay. And I tell myself I'm still going to work towards it. I'm still going to continue to manifest it because it's in my purpose. It's in my mission. It's on my journey.
Love that.
Thank you.
So as the campaigner for body positivity, what would your top tips be to young people struggling with body image and low self-esteem right now?
First and foremost, please, I know that it's difficult to pinpoint, toxic or, not encouraging friendships or relationships or even with parents. Because people think it's only about relationships, but it's also parents, right, in that environment. Please know that you are more and you're worthy of so much more than what your family may be telling you, whether that's it's a tia or that dad or that mom, right? Or that grandma who maybe just been really toxic and she's telling you a lot of things that you don't really want to hear right now, right? Or, make sure you don't follow things that are not like, encouraging to you. Follow like positive things, right? Like our platforms or other ones that like are going to bring up your esteem.
Right.
Because you see somebody that they're able to do it, it encourages and motivates you to do the same thing, Follow and have like tons of like sign up for emails. I love Morgan Harper Nicholas. I love her. I Am Mantra is another one. I follow like every day I start my day just like that with positive and like words and like podcasts that help me and build me back up in case I'm not having a great day, or if I am, it's just part of my routine, So making sure you're doing that. And aside from that, please, you are more than your size. Like that size in the store, it's not really real. Because if you think about it, you can go to una tienda, right? You can go to like, let's say, Old Navy, right? We mentioned that. But you can go to American Eagle. You'll probably be bigger size than American Eagle. That's not on you. That's on the company and what they're building. So please, like, just like when I got this dress, I was like, okay, I saw the size and was like, okay, I looked at 1X. I was like, nah. I said 2X, no. I said 3X, yes. Because why? I wanted to be flowy, but I didn't think about, I'm
going up 3 sizes.
Exactly.
Right.
I thought about, okay, I want this to fit me nice. I want it to like look nice so it accentuates my body.
And you know what? That's something that I have to work on. Because my issue is not, right now at this life, at this point, my issue is not with the number on the scale. It's the number on the clothing. Like, for the last, I want to say 14 years, I've been a certain number.
Yeah.
The last, maybe 2 years ago, I went up 1 number, and now I'm up another number, and that is what's freaking me out the most. it's not even the number on the scale. It's the number of the clothes. And whether that's because I have my own idea and concept of what I want to look like in clothes, or I don't know what, or maybe it's because I don't want to end up paying the extra $3 because I'm going up. But yeah, so I love that you say that. I love that you say that because that's definitely a different perspective and a different way of looking at it. So yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we have been taught since we were little, since we were born, about how we have to look, what we have to have. If we have like breasts or we have butt, like that's the biggest thing now. Like lately, that we have to have a bottle body, that we have to look like this. Oh, we can't, like, we have to use all these filters all the time, that we have to wear makeup. What the hell? Like, what if I don't want to wear makeup? And sometimes I don't. A lot of times I don't. I haven't used a foundation in a year. You know what I mean? Because I've been taking care of my skin. I want my skin to be beautiful like it is because I accept it for what it is, Whether it has, like, my sunspots or my acne scars, I'm okay with it. But again, we're taught to be this person and these things and, like, all these, like, social media, like, artists, for example, right? Because we see them or we look at these TV shows, we're like, oh my God, I have to look like this. Or these magazines. We grew up more on magazines. What was in the magazine? Una flaca. Somebody was always gonna. I don't mean to be like that, but it's the truth. Like a thin person, somebody who was so thin, and we weren't seeing women with hips or seeing women with all these bodies, especially on all our like TV shows. Because for those who didn't have like cable like that, we had like channel 2, 4, 7, 11.
9 and 11.
Yes, that was it. And what did we see on those TV shows? People that didn't really represent us. So we have so much undoing to do, right? So much unlearning, but we're the ones who have to learn, right? We're the ones who have to like pour in, and as we mentioned, pour in, but also look, search within, meditate, think about what do you want to show up as every day, and that's it, and let go, como aceite, like, like just let it roll off, let it all go, and not carry what the world and society wants you to look like. You look like who you want to look like. That is on period. And aside from that, please just make sure you have the right people around you. Like, when we're around like other people who may be superficial, etc., and that's cool. Like, listen, live your lives. But guess what? Tejal Parekh doesn't want all that around her, okay? She wants people who are going to pour back into her, who are, about quality, right? Who are about willing to do the same work. You want that, or the people who've done the work that you can learn from, because we're always going to be scholars for the rest of our lives, and we're not experts. We're just here to learn and apply and then pour into the world however we can do every single day, like you are right now.
Yeah, true. I love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. So before we wrap up, I like to do with some of my guests, and you are a lucky one, who's going to do it, final 5. So it's 5 rapid fire questions.
Sure.
Okay?
Yes.
So ready?
Let's go.
All right. If your body could speak right now, what would it say?
Tejal, you are incredible, and thank you for loving me.
Love that.
Thank you.
What gives you strength?
God.
Okay. Wow. Love that too.
What
are the bare essentials you need to feel good?
Oh, the bare essentials. Just give me music and like tons of sun, and we're good. And like, woo! I'll just keep it going, and when we get to go, yo me bailo por una bachatica, or some reggaeton, or some like dance song. We be getting down, like that's it. That's it.
So music and sun. Give her the music.
That's
you need to be in Dior, girl.
I know, de verdad. You're right. Send me now.
What makes a woman beautiful to you?
Oh my gosh, their aura and just like them. I can see a woman walking on the block, and I'm like, yes, they're confident. Seeing how confident and just their aura and their smile, and just being able to have that conversation with them. That's what I think is so beautiful. Is the woman, how they show up, their aura, and just that glow that they have, and that conversation of empowerment.
Yeah, the vibe.
Yeah.
Right? The vibe.
Yes.
Last one. What brings you joy?
Oh, what brings me joy is seeing my smile, but then also the fact that I am here. I'm here, and that I can pour in to anybody that I pass by any moment, outside in the street, my scholars, my platform, the people that pour into me, you know, and God, because I give it up to him.
Oh my God. Love that. So thank you so much for being here. Before we wrap up, let people know where they can find you.
You can go ahead and follow me on Instagram at Bright Dollface, TikTok, Facebook, however you like. And, you know, just pour in and let's keep it going because this hype coach is here to hype you up.
And that is a fact. That is a fact. Thank you so much, honey, for being here. Thank you for sit down and talking and chatting with me. It has been an amazing blessing, and I have definitely taken something with me out of this.
Thank you so much.
We really hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Polymath Latina podcast. Stay connected with us directly through the polymathlatina.com and join the conversation over on Instagram. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and then go over to your favorite podcast player to listen to this full episode. Remember to share your smile y hasta la próxima.